Hello and welcome to another episode of Not Too Deep. I'm your host, Grace Helbig, and it is the last episode of Not Too Deep for the year 2021. So I thought, how fitting, appropriate, and sweet is it to have the one and only Elliot Morgan join me for this episode. If you don't know, Elliot Morgan is my best friend and also my fiance.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, thank you so much for being here. You've been a guest more than one times?
Maybe one or two times. I don't know.
At least
honestly.
one time.
At least one time, yeah.
But you've been, I think, not by yourself on the podcast.
Sure.
Okay, great.
We've done a separate one, just the two of us.
Yeah, we had
I think
short-lived, fever dreamish podcast called Pilot On.
we had a pandemic podcast.
And that's a sign that a podcast is really going to stick when you decide to go for it in a time of uncertainty and turmoil.
Hey, you know, some podcasts go out with a bang, and ours went out with we don't really.
Yeah, ours went out the way that you snuff out a match.
Exactly.
It's just very quiet.
How are you doing, Grace?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here, Elliot. I don't really have... I know. I'm nervous.
You are?
And
yeah, it's very cute.
two, I've already done all of the tropes of Not Too Deep with you on this podcast before, so we don't have anything prepared. Thought that this episode... I have a little bit of an interview with a company that I had talked to a few months ago that we'll get to later, but I thought that maybe before that, you and I would just kind of have a casual conversation, kind of wrapping up the year, reflecting on different variables throughout it, etc.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
What do you want me to start? Or?
I talked to you before this and was like, I don't know what we should talk about. And you were like, don't worry, I'll interview you.
Yeah, let's dive into it. Grace, how are you doing? Deep down. Talk to me. Open up.
Yeah, do you like...
Get deep.
Well, do you like that question? Because I do feel like I've asked so many people over the course of this year in so many different ways how they're doing. And I do find that for different people, it's a very, it's a question that doesn't reveal how they're doing, but only reveals how ready they are to talk about how they're doing.
That's a great observation. I have a follow-up question about it.
Yeah, see how I evaded that question by making just observations?
I can help you, and I love that I'm seeing now what you've been doing on the whiteboard over here, which you guys can't see on camera or certainly on audio, but there is an ear that has an arrow pointing out of it that has a big dick.
Yeah, that's from a live stream that Mamer and I did earlier.
Oh, very funny. Okay, so here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to mix up all of the answers into a blender of when you've been asking people how they're doing and pour it into a big ol' reflective smoothie, what would it taste like?
Ooh, it would...
What's your vibe from the amalgamation of because you've talked to a lot to this year.
Yeah.
I think you have feedback on the general, a weird kind of scientific, qualitative, if not quantitative.
Well, I'm awful at representing
we're not
flavors.
Self-talk.
So
You're great at representing flavors.
As someone that's primary grocery store shopping occurs at 7-Eleven, I would say that it would be a flavor profile that is confusing on the palate, where you can't really discern what from what. Is there citrus? Is there sweetness? Is there smokiness? Is there what?
Meatiness.
And then there's like a bite afterwards.
A little pungence.
Like a sharpness afterwards.
Yeah.
I think the general, at least from my talking to a lot of different people that are artists for the most part in different avenues, is that everyone's kind of in a moment of either having pivoted and knowing what they're doing and going forward with something, or kind of figuring out what their pivot is right now and
I can relate.
Going towards something. Yeah, go on.
No, that's all I said.
Yeah, if you can relate, in what way can you relate to that?
Everything you said, I was like, I can relate to that.
As you burp inside of your own mouth.
I truly, okay, whatever. I'll be very honest with you guys. We had, it was my idea, and we're going to get into New Year's resolutions in a little bit, but we ordered pizza last night.
Yeah.
And it ruined my next day. It's it's just indicative that sometimes as you grow in life, you have to change your behaviors. And mine I've gotten to that point, and I feel very, physically today, I felt very bad from an excess amount of Domino's pizza.
Well, I'm thankful that you were able to muster up enough energy to sit here and talk with me about it. And to really reveal your truth and be vulnerable with all of us.
How are you doing, Grace?
You can't keep coming back to that.
You're not answering the question.
The question is, I think, and what I've heard from everyone is fine, which is no one wants to hear fine.
It's not fun.
But it's honest, is that I'm fine.
Yeah.
I think that everyone's, like I said, trying to figure everything out. And it's wild times to figure everything out. How are you doing, Elliot?
Fine, babe. I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay? I'm fine.
And see, when you say that, I say, thank you so much for telling me that.
No, you could not imagine someone more right in between good and bad.
Okay.
I deserve
like the metronome just stopped in the middle.
No music. The music is stopped. And it's
the rhythm of music is just playing one note.
Yep. And it's like I have nothing to complain about, and I have nothing to go, oh boy, this is exciting.
Okay. Well,
except for being, I love you very much, and that's all great. But we're not getting into that. Like that's.
Well, if we're gonna get deep, because you've already kind of set that course for this rambling bit. How do you think that you get out of being fine?
Why do you need to get out of being fine?
That's the other question. Do you need to get out of it?
I don't think you do.
Okay.
In fact, I think fine is what many people would kill for.
Really? Yeah. So, true.
Let's let them. Let's embrace the fineness, but you have to embrace the contradiction of good and bad constantly in every moment of life, and that's my big deep comment.
Well, I will say that you and I have both decided.
Heidegger said, no.
Well, on that note-ish, you and I in the last year plus have decided to go to grad school. And I get a lot of questions about making that decision and how and why. And so I turn those questions over to you as someone that is currently in a PhD program and whose, on paper history of comedy and entertainment and digital creation doesn't necessarily lend itself to that being the next step for you. How did you make that decision? Because I do think a lot of people are making decisions that feel on paper very radically out of the path that they've been in.
It's a great question, Grace. And it's a
real question.
Yeah, it's a very complex answer. So I'm going to try to unpack it to the best of my ability. I would say that.
And I've seen you unpack a suitcase.
And it doesn't go well.
It's chaos.
Absolutely. It's an explosion. So Here we go. Poof. I would say it's a twofold answer. One is that the most important one is I followed my gut and I followed my.
What does that mean? Because that's like a phrase that I hear, I also pay attention to, but it sounds so, like a poetic throwaway.
Yeah, I think gut is when your inner emotions and your stomach and your pulse lines up with what your brain is doing, which also lines up with what the outside world is doing. And so for me, in the moment of deciding to go to grad school, all those things lined up, and I then shot from the hip a little bit. And so that's the second part of it, where I would say following your gut is not necessarily like the be all and end all of decision making. I think following your gut has a downside where you have to then go, oh, this is actually a big, very serious thing. But I was very like, this makes sense. I'm going to do this and have faith that it's going to work. And then,
well, having faith is a big part of it too.
It is a big part. And so you go, all right, let's see what happens. And I've lucked out a little bit in a way that has only affirmed my shooting from the hip. But I would not say that everyone should just shoot from the hip constantly.
You're talking about your gut, your hip. You're really listening to your hips what happens if they lie?
You get rid from my toes when you feel it in your toes. Yeah, but it was truly like a and to be very honest, I was very I think that you have to have a conscious awareness of you didn't want this for your podcast.
No, I do. This is the end of the year, and this is something that I haven't had a chance to really kind of explain in depth about what our current like situations are behind the scenes of the limited things we post on the internet now.
Yeah, I very limited, so limited. But I was very like, let's look at, be aware of the fact that you're going to die one day, as dark as that is. And I hate to bring it down on this episode of Not Too Deep, but being aware that you have so many years left to live. And I was like, what do I want to do 10 years from now? Do I want to be going to comedy clubs and trying to write a funny thing, or do I want to dive into what something in my soul is saying I should go for it? And so I went that direction, and it was a very like, okay, I have this many years left on the planet. This is going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of money, and I'm going to go do it and see what happens, because I only have one life to live, basically. So there's a little bit of weird nihilism, weird little bit of like, oh, okay, let's do this because
the wondering what if.
Yeah. And I don't want to be 10 years from now. I would hate to look back and go, man, I could know about this stuff if I had really studied it. But But also you had an interest already that was kind of something you indulge in fundamentalists with Peter Rollins and Dr. Peter Rollins.
He's
so angry if you don't call him how he does.
But it was already kind of like a side passion ish that was kind of like informally played around with, that you decided to take on more formally.
Yeah, and disagreeing with him on certain levels, and then having no ground to stand on, and being like, man, I don't know enough. I feel a certain way about it, but being able to learn from every angle has been really just so great. So yeah, I have no I feel like a lot of people are trying to make very difficult decisions of entering into something that interests them or that, stirs their curiosity, but there's no certainty in what lies ahead if they decide to go in that direction. I think this past year, and even going now into the new year, that's going to become way more prevalent for people. And it's interesting to hear, I think, from people that are doing it. Well, how are you doing? You're doing it as well, Grace. You are also in a program, and it's interesting because we joined separate programs in the same school, and they kind of complement each other. So we have a lot of the similar. The book lists will often have things that one of us have already gotten. Yeah, and it's so exciting. Like you're reading now, or getting into a little bit of Jung's Red Book, which is really interesting. And I've had a whole class on Red Book, so it's so fun. Well,
for people that don't, for people that don't know, we're in a programs. How do you describe them?
Well, you're in what's called Engaged Humanities and Creative Life or something like that. So you're in an arts-based program it's a master's program. Yeah, and it's very humanities-based. I'm also in a psychology program that it's a type of psychology that is very based in kind of art and creativity, which is very fun. Yeah. Archetypal psychology is very based on in art. In art. Yeah. Symbols, the humanities, metaphors, all of it. I do think that when you and I started dating, it was already very nice to have the camaraderie of YouTube and digital content creation within our connection. And then now moving into this, it's equally nice to have the camaraderie of being in similar complementary but different programs, which so fun. Feels like cheating in the school to have someone in my house that has all the books and knows a little bit more about what I'm learning about in my program. But I will say, for me to take the plunge to decide to sign up for this program was that, I spent a few years feeling very disenchanted by what I was doing online and feeling very lost, but feeling like the pressure to keep up all the time. So it's like this hamster wheel of
just, is this how it's supposed to feel? Like, I don't know that it felt this way.
Empty and lifeless.
And I have a hard time of committing to the feeling of burnout and truly creating boundaries and commitment in general, and the like deciding or recognizing when I need to step away from something that is no longer like serving me, especially when you feel so lucky to be working in such a cool new art platform, digital, like it just feeling like you're on the forefront of something, and then feeling like it doesn't connect with you, ironically, in how much connection you have, and needing something else, and also just needing structure, because working in a online content creator capacity, you truly lack structure unless you create it for yourself. And some people are very, very great at creating that for themselves, and I had to recognize that I am not great at
God
that.
bless them. Some people are really good at that. One of the things that I like about the area of depth psychology is the idea that your symptoms, your like tendencies to feel certain things are more like warning lights or the on the dashboard kind of check engine lights that pop up. And when you talk about like burnout and stuff, I think there's a loop you can get into where you're like, oh, I'm burnt out, so that means I need to pause and then do it all over again,
do the same thing again, and I'll feel refreshed but doing the same thing.
Yeah, but the burnout might be going like, no, we're done with this now, like let's do something slightly different or do it in a different way. And that's a very fun, it just gives you a different way of looking at stuff, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and also just having so much momentum in one area, it's very hard to, like you said, have faith that you can gain momentum in another area.
Yes, it's very terrifying all the time, every day.
But I do think that there's so many people out there that are trying to figure out what their pivot is without knowing. And I'll tell you, from my point of view, I'm over halfway through this grad school situation, and I still have no real clarity on what I'm going to do with this experience in grad school, because I think part of it, I'm so conclusions based that if I start something, I want to know what the benefit is. I want to know what I will be doing. I want to know what script I'll be writing, what book I'll be writing, what thing I'll be doing.
That's an egoic.
I know.
And dominating your psyche. There's many voices.
It was so hard for me to recognize that I'm a person that is so desiring of certainty. And because I thought people that were neurotically desiring of certainty were like uncool. And to quote Luann de Lesseps, don't be all uncool. Well, I was all uncool. And so I think the cool thing is like free falling into something that resonates with your gut, like you were saying earlier.
And then recognize that something in you wanted that and got it. So it's
that you have to be in it. You have to be in the uncertainty and the weird, cloudy part of it, and try to have faith that there's something on the other side that's important.
Yes. Mostly. But also don't do it for the faith. Don't worry about the faith. Okay. Well, look, if you want to get into it.
To quote Limp Bizkit, you gotta have faith. Wait, to quote Limp Bizkit,
kind of faith is fine.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back with more Not Too Deep with Elliot Morgan and some other stuff.
Not Too Deep with Grace Helbig.
Hello, listeners. Grace Helbig here, wanting to say two things. A big thank you for listening to the podcast. If you're a regular listener, if this is your first time listening, welcome and thank you. And second thing, if you are enjoying yourself here in this not too deep world we've built and you'd like to leave us a review, that would be so wonderful. If you can go to the iTunes store, the App Store, and leave us a lovely little review, comment. How are you feeling? Good, bad, otherwise? Maybe just good or otherwise would be appreciated. Other than that, enjoy the podcast. And we're back.
Hi.
Now we've talked about how we've gotten into grad school, being in grad school. Maybe we move away from grad school a little bit and
Please.
just talk about generally moving into 2022.
Well, okay, let's dive into it, Grace.
Because this is the last episode of 2021, which I feel like was an accordion. You know, it started real slow and then it's like it got squeezed and all of a sudden a polka song came on and it went real fast.
It is like a polka song. Yeah. 2021 has been a polka song. That's very funny. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about New Year's resolutions. All right. So
yeah, I haven't really thought. I don't necessarily think through New Year's resolutions every year.
Totally.
I used to try and do it a little bit, but that's also just me loving fresh starts.
Exactly.
But do you have New Year's resolutions?
So many.
Really? Okay.
Where do I begin?
Okay.
I use it as a checklist for all the things I want to change about my life.
Okay.
So it's very long.
Okay.
All right.
Can you give us what are your top 3 to 5?
Okay. Well, first though, let me just say something about New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm a big fan because I think it's very rare that you have a chance to just. It's very rare that we collectively have a reason to be like, okay, let's restart a little bit. I think it's beautiful.
Oh, you mean that it's socially
I like it.
acceptable? Like it's the social current that's
Same
going
way I
on.
like Christmas and how it's a holiday.
Because
and
you can
go,
restart whenever you want.
Right, but when else is everyone kind of thinking the same thing?
But
There's
that's
a
my
power
question.
behind that.
Okay, that's my question is that does that matter?
I think it does.
Okay.
I think it's nice. I think it's one of the few kind of rituals we have left in this hellscape that we're in. But
Cool.
I love the idea of just being like, let's switch things up and doing it together. And people always go, well, you never keep them. You never keep the resolutions. But
Right.
I say, let's give it a shot. And so here's what you ready?
Yeah, okay.
All right. No McDonald's.
Norm McDonald's.
Norm McDonald's.
Yeah, which
No
rest in peace. No McDonald's
No
for
Taco
you.
Bell.
No Taco Bell. No fast food or just those 2 particular fast food?
Well, here's the deal. Sometimes you want comfort food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's ways around getting I love fast
But
food.
comfort food can be slow cooked food.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So
Yeah,
what are you
totally. We're on the
saying?
same page.
What are you saying?
I'm saying no Taco Bell, no McDonald's.
No fast comfort food.
Well, okay. So I got to be very specific for
KFC,
myself.
Popeyes, Del Taco,
I didn't say any of those things.
Jack in the Box.
All allowed.
Those are all allowed
I'm saying that these particular foods. but
because these
I
are
will-
your number 1s and 2s.
Right.
They give you the 2s and 2s.
Yeah, they do.
Okay,
Yes,
they
they
do's
do.
and do's. Yeah.
And so I would say no McDonald's, no Taco Bell, no Domino's based on recent events.
Okay.
But here's the deal. There's 2 different types of resolutions. There's withdrawal
Uh-huh.
and there's addition. Okay. The withdrawal is easy. I can take things away.
Okay.
But the addition is the difficult part. So what do you want to add in the new year? For me, that's just constant exercise. So my goal is to, for a year, work out 5 to 7 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was doing that for a while and it was great. And I love
But
it.
what do you think about
And I miss it. So I know I can do it. So I want to keep doing that.
right here's my follow-up question to that. I have concern or curiosity about the idea of, not for you in particular, but in general for people that make resolutions that seem to take them from 0 to 60 in what their lifestyle had been. And that to me seems what makes resolutions not sustainable, is that when
Yeah.
you make a complete about face and you change your lifestyle abruptly and
Unsustainable.
how can you can maintain that for a little bit, but then you become so
Well, here's okay. So all right.
because that feels like all, on paper all sounds cool.
Here's my general theory with New Year's resolutions. If you can make it 2 months in any of them,
Mm-hmm.
I count that as a win. I'm like, you did it. And so if
So the year's over. So by March,
I
you're
just
back
say
on
you give
Taco
yourself
Bell,
a
no
little-
working out.
I'm just saying, if you go 2 months, and then though, here's
So you're a pendulum.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I see what you're doing, and no, ma'am. You do it for that amount of time,
Mhm.
and then you assess and you go, do I want to keep doing this for myself? Is my life better as a result of doing this for the past 2 months? And then you're no longer doing it because it's a New Year's resolution. You're doing it because you've reaped the rewards of having some discipline in your life. And I think we can both agree, me having discipline in my life is not the worst case scenario.
I whatever discipline looks like for you that makes sense, I can't make those decisions for you. I just think that knowing myself, if I go in one direction and then extreme swing past back to the other direction, I'm not. How do I sustain a middle ground?
It's all beautiful. The pendulum swings. That's the metronome.
But so are
baby.
you? Okay, so when you think about New Year's resolutions, do you think about them solely existing in the new-ish part of the year and then the rest of the year? Or do you think about New Year's resolutions to sustain throughout the course of the year? Because I do think people forget that New Year's resolutions, they only keep them in the new part of the year because it's in the title of what they're deciding for themselves.
I absolutely
if they decide
am okay with that.
year-long resolutions, if we had it as year-long resolutions, I think that might make people think a little bit differently about what they mean versus New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
All I know is that if you give yourself a little bit of a runway in celebration of the new year, then your motivations might change as a result of those decisions. But I agree that you can't remain motivated as a result of being like, this is my New Year's resolution. So let me go ahead and scratch one of my resolutions right now.
Which one?
I'm going to be very honest with you.
Which one?
I'm not giving up McDonald's.
You're not going to give up McDonald's?
Breakfast McDonald's is one of the greatest things.
But you only have it that I know of like once every couple months, unless there's some other shenanigans going on. Well, here's what I might say, something very controversial here. I think, at least for me, that New Year's resolutions are a bit bullshit because I am someone that loves the opportunity for what I have now learned for myself are superficial fresh starts. And the idea of like the collective freshly starting and all these apps and all of these things and all of these discounted exercise equipments and food plans and all of this are wonderful at the start of the year. And you do feel the collective energy of it all. But then you also feel the collective drain of it all by February or March. And it seems like if you want to make something for yourself that changes or sticks, you have to do it at a time in which you are ready to take on that major change or stickiness.
Well, maybe.
I'm just saying, I used to love and still idolize like the fantasy of New Year's resolutions because it feels like this gimmicky thing you do.
Beautiful.
But I have never.
Enter the fantasy.
I do not know that any of them have ever stuck for me in previous years. So they don't resonate with me as something. Did Goose fart? Because it smells awful. And I didn't know if your Domino's was still having a moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
That is truly.
She's down there. Okay.
One for the record books.
Well,
anyway,
I was gonna say, if I may.
I think she agrees with me is what she's trying to say.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say was maybe your New Year's resolution should be to not be so cynical about New Year's resolutions.
It's not
and
cynicism.
Just embrace the stupidity.
It's not.
They're
but
stupid.
See, but that's the thing. Yeah.
But what's wrong with being stupid? You can be stupid.
I didn't think anything was wrong with them. I just think myself,
forgive me.
If I want to make changes that are real, the way that people treat resolutions, like I got to do it at any point, not necessarily in the beginning of January, that aligns with me when I'm ready to take them on.
Right. In a perfect world, you wake up tomorrow and you go, I'm going to give up Taco Bell. But you know you're not going to do that. And so it helps to have a collective holiday where the entire world around you rests and goes, what are we going to change about? It's just a nice, a nice reset.
Well,
you know this.
Other than Taco Bell and exercise, which I think are very traditional types of resolutions for people, what's like your third resolution?
Well, this brings up a great point, Grace.
Yeah.
Which is, I believe that there is a value in certain resolutions being
secret,
very private.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I agree.
Then you're not saying it on a podcast and feeling some sort of big
social pressure.
Yeah.
Accountability, you mean?
I think the biggest accountability is when it's just yourself, because there's no bigger disappointment than when you're just like, man, I really no one was even asking me and I still screwed it up.
Well, okay. So you're anticipating failure. And you're going to keep it private so that you get to be your own worst
kept
enemy.
My failure private for so long. What are you going to do? I mean, do you want to?
I don't know.
Anything. It's a fun it's a contest with yourself. It's a nice game.
What I will continue to do, I think, is pay attention to my mental health, which is, I think, very trendy now, whatever. But I do think for myself, I've been internally making some strides in different directions. And I'm, like I said earlier, one of those people that wants to get to the conclusion of it. And I kind of need to sit with myself on different things. And I want to enjoy the rest of my graduate program that I have. I really want to spend time there working on and through the stuff that I'm learning about.
It's very fun to see you spend many weeks going,
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
And then right at the end, it's time for
peaks and valleys, and I go, I get this, and I have something to contribute. Yeah. And then 90% of the time, I'm like, what the fuck is all of this? And why the fuck do we need to learn all of this? And then I realize I signed myself up into this, and I am the one that has put myself in this situation.
You're doing great stuff.
You too. Well, we have to wrap this up. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Oh, man, I love you. Thank you for having me.
I love you too. You're welcome for having you.
Well, was I okay?
I think you were really great.
All right.
And I can't wait for all of us to be monitoring and tweeting at you and messaging you and checking in with you all through the course of January, February, and maybe into March about your relationship with Taco Bell, McDonald's, and exercise.
I took McDonald's off the
table. Well, thank you, Elliot, for being here. And I hope you guys enjoy this interview that I did months ago with the team behind Psychedelic Water. Ever heard of it? Well, maybe you should. Take a listen. And we'll see you in the new year. Thanks for listening. Goodbye. Okay. We did it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Not too deep with Grace Helbig.
Okay. This is unlike any episode I think I've ever done on Not Too Deep, but I am very excited to talk about things that fascinate me and that I'd love to hear all of your responses and ideas behind. First of all, can you introduce yourselves as who you are and what it is you do for Psychedelic Water?
My name is Ben Rogel. I am the marketing director at Psychedelic Water. I've been around since day one, pretty much.
Okay.
And
which is in February, so you're still under a year old, right? Okay.
Yeah, we officially launched in February, but there was a lot of work behind the scenes before we actually were able to launch our product.
Got it.
Yeah.
And Brittany, what is your relationship to this experience?
Yeah, so I've been working with Psychedelic Water for a couple months now. I am building content with them and also getting the word out about the product, getting to talk to people on the streets over here in San Diego and letting them know about this product.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very grassroots. And speaking of getting on the streets, Keith is a man about town on the street.
Just so you know, if you can hear me, I won't be walking in a moment, but I'm the founder of Psychedelic Water, and I'm sort of the OG of the company, as you can see.
Okay, very cool. This is what an OG does. He doesn't stop. It's always hustle. I have so much curiosity. One, I'd love to hear, Ben and Brittany, kind of your origin story of how did you get involved in this product? And on top of that, it's such triggering is not the right word, but it's such a excitable kind of concept How do you describe it to someone that has absolutely no idea what this product is or what the mission kind of is behind the product?
So, yeah, you know what? There's nothing else like it out there.
Right.
The feeling of psychedelic water. To me, it's a mild sort of mood booster, makes you feel sort of chilled out, makes you feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I personally, like, I drink it very frequently because we have a good supply of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it for me, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll have one in the morning before work.
Okay.
If I have a busy day ahead and I need to sort of calm myself down,
Sure.
then I'll have one before work. There are times where maybe it's a Thursday as well. I'm meeting up with friends after. Instead of, there's no hangovers with it. So if I want to feel okay on Friday.
Yeah. So basically, like the brass tacks of what this product is like a liquid herbal supplement of sorts to try and kind of regulate and calm anxieties and the like.
For sure does that, Grace. Let me tell you something. When I came up with this idea 2 years ago,
yeah,
I was really involved. I'm still really involved in the cannabis industry.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that sector.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking there's got to be a cannabis 2.0 or 3.0. So years ago, I started researching psychedelics. And I thought, okay, this is the next frontier. I believe that psychedelics will change the world way more ultimately than cannabis. It's just so powering, so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact psychedelics will have over the next 5 years, you ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, and I'm a cannabis fan.
Sure.
But when I started researching it, I said, how the fuck am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Because it's illegal everywhere.
Right.
Right. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I can't start a business that is going to be put out of business.
Mm-hmm.
I hired a food scientist professor from NYU and a formulation company out of California. I said, here's the mandate.
Okay.
I want to launch the world's first psychedelic brand. But I want it to be something that I can bring into the mainstream. And I had a couple of goals. I didn't only want to create a product.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to build a company around a certain ethos, something I wanted to support psychedelic thinking. And what we talk about is the psychedelic state of mind. You know how there's certain people who are just closed-minded?
Yeah.
And there's certain people who are groundbreakers, mavericks, risk takers, curious, adventurous, passionate about life.
Yeah.
To me, that is what a psychedelic state of mind is. So I always think about, Steve Jobs, he actually did psychedelics.
Yeah.
He was a psychedelic dude.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish, whether she does psychedelics or not, she's there's certain people like you, Grace, are psychedelic.
Well, look, this is why I'm fascinated to talk to you guys, because I've talked about this in previous podcasts on other situations, that I'm no stranger to mushrooms and I'm no stranger to an actual psychedelic experience. In fact, one of the most profound experiences that I had on mushrooms while I was in college was that I wanted to make people laugh. And it kind of catalyzed me to pursue comedy in general. And so I think when kind of take it in the right sort of like respectful way and handle it in a more kind of elevated situation, that it has truly profound effects on people. Like you're saying, opening up avenues of the brain, allowing in love and care and connection in ways that is impossible to explain in everyday life to anyone. Like I'm looking at the Elmo on your shelf bed, and I feel like, yeah, that is a bit of a symbolic gesture of the kind of feeling you can get from this situation.
Well, that's also my child at heart.
Yeah. Okay. But that's why it's so, because this is such a, I guess, stigmatized area, to be able to kind of like dilute it into more mainstream. I'm so curious about how you guys approach all of that.
That's why it's very interesting to use that word demystify.
Yeah.
That's a key priority. So one of the first things I did when I came up with the idea was I started thinking about the trademark.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it that nobody owned the word psychedelic or psychedelic water.
Wow.
I was shocked. So we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trademarking the word psychedelic and the word psychedelic water around the world. So we not only own those trademarks, by the way, but I thought, okay, I'm not trying to create a one-trick pony company here. This company is going to be far more than just our existing products, which are amazing. one day we could have 20 or 30 different products, and we're going to stand for more than just products. So we also trademarked psychedelic coffee, psychedelic tea, psychedelic energy, any derivative that would make sense to you, or that you would probably guess at, we own. So step one was getting that trademark, because our thinking was we've got a bit of a mountain to climb here. There are a lot of psychedelic haters because they're closed-minded people. And there's also the legal landscape, which makes no sense. It has to change, because anybody who wants to do magic mushrooms, you can have them at your door in 30 minutes. If you talk to anyone under the age of 30, they've either tried psychedelics, they've dabbled, they've experimented, or they're thinking about trying it. So there's this reality on the ground, and then there's the legal landscape, which is a complete disconnect. So my objective and our company's objective was to insert psychedelics into everyday life. How do we do that? If you can go into a convenience store or a gas station and you see something called psychedelic on the shelf or psychedelic water on the shelf, that's step one in our mission to demystify and normalize psychedelics.
I mean, and then you have people like Rachel Ray talking about it, right? So I think that's a big conduit to get into middle America families. But I'm curious, Brittany, from your perspective as like an influencer that's trying to like, you know, kind of embody this message and also market it in so many ways. Like, how did you first get involved in this company? Was this something that you found interesting and reached out about? Because I know that you do a lot of like yoga lifestyle stuff.
Yeah, so for pretty much all my life, I've been really into being healthy. Even when I was younger, I rather eat like veggies and fruits over candy and all of that. So I've always been like, I've always had like a health conscious mind and gravitated towards like more natural products. And I recently started to do yoga, not recently, but yoga teacher training, and then getting my license and all of that. And I was on TikTok and saw this product, and I, you know, dabble it with microdosing mushrooms sometimes. And then also the big craze right now is mushroom products, all the lattes that are coming out. So I really knew a lot of information on the medicinal mushrooms, along with like the psilocybin. So when I saw this product, I was so curious about it because of the name, but knowing what else is in there, the kava, damiana, and green tea, which making it a psychedelic blend that doesn't like make you hallucinate or anything, but it kind of relaxes you, is something that I gravitated more towards because I suffer from anxiety and stuff. So when I drink it, it really like calms me down. And plus our Instagram and TikTok is really pretty amazing and creative. And I'm a creative person along with my boyfriend. We work together. We make like creative content. So we were like, oh my gosh, we need to make something for this brand. And then we did, and then got involved with them. And it's been really cool ever since. And then just talking about the product and trying to get it out there has been great too, because everybody is curious about it.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I was so curious to talk to you guys about it because I think it provokes an interest of, oh, this is something that can help me manage or, you know, combat my anxieties on a regular level. But all I've maybe heard is negative commentary around it. How do I kind of manage my expectations of this? How do I manage my experience and my curiosities around it? I'm curious what the biggest kind of thing for you guys, other than trademarking psychedelic and psychedelic water, like what's the biggest question that you all get asked as people that work for this company and this product?
Great. So first, if I can just sidebar for a second around Brittany, because she did something that I think influencers should really take note of. She and her boyfriend made these great videos, created this great content, without
free?
Ever being on our payroll. They were just so excited and they loved the product so much. And it came to our attention and we said, fuck, these people are great. We like, even if we didn't care if they had a following or anything, we just loved that they were authentic. They were into traditional psychedelic and they loved our product. And that's how the working relationship started. I wish more influencers would actually try to put some stuff out there for show a connection to the product, because good things will follow. And we pay tens of thousands of dollars to influencers. That's part of the game. anyway, back to some of the challenges we faced. This is the first product of its kind, so we're pioneering here. And when you're a pioneer, you're going to get blowback sometimes. This is the most psychedelic product we could create without going to jail. If we wanted to actually, people call bullshit on us.
That should be the log line of the product. I don't know why that's not on the boxes.
It's true. It's true. People, we have 40,000 customers who have already bought this product. We know what their reaction is. They're telling us they get a mood boost. It chills them out. They feel happier, more content. We've had, Britt talked about her anxiety. We've had this whole constituency of young females out there who suffer from anxiety who've really embraced our product. And it's been just such a disparate group of people who've supported us. For example, MMA fighters. Yeah. Without us ever talking, they started reaching out to us and saying, we're using your product because it helps us get through workouts, really intense workouts. It takes the edge off. But look, if people are out there, and we tell them, if you're looking for some face-melting experience, this is not the product. We're trying to bring psychedelics to the mainstream. You will feel better. But it doesn't contain psilocybin. As I said, it's as psychedelic as a product can get today.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's not whatever divine experience you might have while consuming the product might be part to your own experience and not the actual water. I'm so concerned. Well, I'm also curious, Brittany, you talk about the TikTok of it all. And this is like, a very viral product. But the way you guys talk about it, you want this to have long-term success. So how do you kind of combat the idea that this is just like a trend that people will pick up on TikTok and start trying because they see it show up in their algorithm versus like trying to have like the longevity of the product and the line itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the product, when you look at it, you're just like, what is that? Because everything about it just stands out if it's the right direction. And so that just like catches your eye off the bat. But once you drink it and you start to feel the effects that it actually gives off into your body, it's something that it hits your tongue and your tongue starts to tingle. Yeah. The kava in it, and you're like, oh, there is something in here that's magical. And then even if it's more of like, there's something good in it, but that it's doing good, hitting your tongue, going into your belly, and it creates something in your mind that makes you feel good. It makes you feel better. Even if it is like, placebo with what is in here, the different supplements.
But placebo to us is a bad word because we're anything but a placebo.
Well, I'll say that I drink Red Bull constantly, and that also has tongue-numbing effects and some warmness in my belly, but I don't think it's doing anything good for me at the end of the day. So I feel like you guys are kind of combating this idea of creating something that has a subtlety to it. I mean, Ben, you said you drink it if you're having a meeting happening that you need to be a little more mellowed out for.
I always have cans close by. Yeah. Always.
So this is something that like people don't need to be kind of shocked or afraid that this is not something they could incorporate into their daily lives.
Well, I think people kind of should bring it into their daily life. Yeah. Be it like with so many moving pieces in society with careers and trying to keep up with social life and Instagram, social media, like why not have something that can take that edge off and incorporate it into your daily life?
Do you now see in the marketplace competing products that are trying to kind of assimilate what you are doing or have done?
Not yet, but there will be copycats. We become in a short time probably the number one consumer-facing psychedelic brand in the world. So we've got this head start, and we intend to use it to get bigger fast. And also work on the regulatory front. We're going to start working with American politicians in the new year because we're trying to promote decriminalization of psychedelics and psilocybin, and also promote one day legalization. That day will come. We're probably 5 to 10 years away from legalization, but there will be exceptions for therapeutic use because psychedelics, I said, will change the world. So the legal side of things must change to accommodate that reality.
Wow. These are big big ideas on the horizon for you guys. World-changing stuff. We've reached the end of the podcast. I could talk to you guys for so much. I feel like I'm getting just free business advice from everyone. I'm so fascinated and excited about the products, plural, that are in the pipeline. Before you guys all jump off, we like to show our appreciation for you guys making time. And we have created a personalized horoscope from us to you. And we've used the birth date of the company itself to create this horoscope. And so any of you can jump in. Melissa just put it in the chat if you'd like to read that horoscope aloud for the class.
Dear Aquarius, water bearer of the stars, Venus in Sagittarius squares Neptune in Pisces this week, which may put some pressure on your wallet and your desire to have fun. Remember the big picture and save away that money for something important in the future, such as psychedelic water at Coachella, just to watch Post Malone somehow mellow out even more backstage.
It's in the stars. It's in the stars for you guys. There it is. Okay, before we wrap up completely, where can people find psychedelic water? Where can they find and follow the new products that will be coming out in the future if they don't already know?
PSYCHEDELICWATER.com.
Just like that. So easy. So easy. And is it best for them to go online and order online if they're interested?
Yeah, we'll be in a couple thousand stores next year, but the simplest way for most people across the country is go straight to psychedelicwater.com or check us out on Instagram or TikTok, wherever. But psychedelicwater.com is the easiest place to buy it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for this well-rounded conversation from all avenues of the business. I feel very informed now. I really appreciate it. Ben, Brittany, Keith, thank you guys. Go check out psychedelicwater.com if you guys are at all interested. It's worth your time. It's worth, what else do you have to lose other than some anxiety, I guess? We'll see you guys next time on Not Too Deep. Goodbye.
Too deep, too deep, too deep, not too deep with Grace Helbig.
Not Too Deep is a production of Grace Helbig Incorporated, producer Melissa D. Montz, edited by Shireen Lani Yunus, post-production sound by Chris Henry, and an extra special thanks to Flula for the theme music.